Hi, Trevor here, reflecting on life through music. Welcome and thank you for stopping by. It's fantastic you are here. Well, I trust you enjoyed my last video on singer-songwriter Don Francisco. And through his song, He's Alive, we looked at the true story that song is based on and the millions and millions of people that have been inspired by that story over the last 2,000 years. So I trust you found that an inspiration as well. Well, we're going from there to a guy that was born in New York in 1945, singer, songwriter, guitarist, a bit of a poet, and well and truly in the folk rock kind of genre. Who are we talking about? Don Mclean. Now, when we talk about Don Mclean, there's one song you have to talk about in particular, but we'll get onto that in a minute. So, as it turns out, back in around May 2020, when I started this video series, Don was the second guy I ever did. And that video talked about the song Vincent, which was, of course, inspired by Vincent van Gogh and the painting Starry, Starry Night. And in his just 10 years of life, he produced so many pictures, it wasn't funny. So Don Mclean got inspired by that, and that was a very successful song for Don Mclean as well. Now, Don tried to get a record deal, and he got rejected by 72 different labels before he got picked up by Media Arts, which would then become part of the United Artists family. And so, you know, he tried very, very hard, but eventually got there. And the rest is history. Between 1970 and 2020, so there's 50 years of career right there. 22 studio albums, 4 live albums, 9 compilation albums, and 16 singles. He got inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame in 2004. Lifetime Achievement Award for BBC Two Radio, that's in the UK, in 2012. He received the George and Ira Gershwin Lifetime Musical Award in 2019. Now, George wrote Rhapsody in Blue, plus a few musicals with his brother Ira, so that's a very significant award indeed. US music royalty right there. And in 2012, he received the star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Now, when we think about Don Mclean, what song do we think about? Well, one of the lines is "the day the music died." In fact, those words are actually mentioned quite a few times in this song. And the day the music died, well, it was the day that Buddy Holly, Richie Valens, of course, Richie Valens sang La Bamba, and Jules Perry Richardson, or Big Bopper, died in a plane crash in 1959. Now, Dawn would have been, let me have a think, 14 years old when this event happened. And this event so touched him, and he just got so overcome with a barrage of lyrics that he wrote an 8.5-minute cultural touchstone album of Song of American Pie. Now, American Pie has been inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame in 2002. It was designated an American treasure for the Library of Congress in the US. This song has had 5 million airplays on radio, and recently the manuscript for this particular song sold for $1.2 million at auction, given one of the highest, not the highest, but one of the highest amounts of money ever paid for a manuscript ever. So this is a very significant song for the world. Now, as we know about American Pie, if you've actually ever listened to it, it's quite long. It goes on for a long, long time. But I think what happened here is that the tragedy of this plane crash, Buddy Holly and Richie Valens and the Big Bopper talks about the widowed bride and all sorts of things. Richie Valens hadn't been married for that long when he died in the plane crash. He was only very, very young. And I suppose, touched Don Mclean to the point where he talked about the loss here, the loss of, then he translated that loss to not just the loss of these three guys, but also the loss of perhaps a bit of America's innocence as well. And the fact that, when he wrote this song in the early 1970s, it would go through the 60s and the awakening of the 60s, and he was just wondering where the world was going a little bit. And I think there's some relevance even now to where is the world going even now. And you know what it's like. Sometimes we get caught up in our own small worlds, and we very rarely take a step back and look at the world in general. Well, we think we do, but we're looking at it from our perspective and from our, insular perspective at the time, without taking a few steps back and trying to work out where the world is going, perhaps looking at humanity as a whole and trying to work out how humanity as a whole is going. There's not really much of an opportunity in this day and age to do that, because we're so almost hell-bound to getting our own point of view across that we forget that there is a bigger picture sometimes. And sometimes it's the lyrics of songs that do this. I suppose at this point Don Mclean was getting a pretty big audience, and so he saw this as an opportunity to make some social commentary. But he didn't just sort of say how bad the world was and everything else. He wrote the lyrics in a way that got us to resonate and reflect a little bit more on where life is going, and all of that sort of thing. And I think, sometimes we need to stop and we need to consider art and poetry and all the rest of it, because it does provide commentary in often a very safe way of how the world is going. We need to sometimes be swept away by other things that capture our imagination, capture our attention, maybe capture our inspiration. And then through that, we can work out how we can be a better human being in this world. Because you know what? There are millions and millions of small corners of the world that we are part of. And we can make a difference in those small corners of the world if we only stop long enough to see the need around us. I think the inspiration of American Pie very much is to consider the needs around us as we consider where we are in the broader context of the world that we're in. So, 8.5 minutes is a long time, but I think what we've got to realise is when we're listening to this song is that this is an absolute classic here. It does not get much bigger and much better than this. This song has captured the hearts of the world ever since it came out in 1971. So I suppose the encouragement for all of us today is to think, well, what can we do to make a better influence in this world? This is the challenge of American Pie today. Well, on to the clips. Now, we've got a couple of songs by Don Mclean. Now, I also already did Vincent a little while back in my last video, so we're going on to a couple of others today. First of all, we do have American Pie. So I've talked about already the cultural significance of this song. This came off the album of the same name of 1971. So here we have a live version of American Pie. And in a minute you hear the start, you know exactly where this song is going, and you just settle down for the ride that is American Pie. Don Mclean's got a pretty amazing voice, and he's just the guy to sing this song. And it's great to see the songwriter singing his own song here. Of course, Madonna did a version of this song a little while ago as well, and so, and Don Mclean thought that version was pretty good as well. So there we go. So we've got a live version of American Pie. Now, another song we think of when we think about Don Mclean is Castles in the Air. This is kind of just about a mystery of life, kind of reflection, very much another poetic look at life and love and a few other bits and pieces. This came off the first album, Tapestry, in 1971. So here we get to see how good a guitarist this guy is. Now, his picking style is pretty amazing. He's just got a beautiful way about him, really. And so that one's there as well. So the links to both of those songs are in the description below. And I've also included my last video from Don Francisco. So if you want to recap on that one, feel free. Well, if you've come back for another video where we've considered this iconic song, American Pie, thank you for doing so. This is your first time to Life Reflections through music. Welcome to the channel. And the encouragement to everybody is that when you do click on one of my videos, watch it to the end, because there might be something interesting for you. Well, that's it for today. And by the way, if you want to make a request, feel free to drop it in the comments below. Well, that's it for today. Next time we're going to go on to pop diva Donna Summer. So until then, I'll catch you around. Bye for now.